Hello everyone, I'm Neha. In today's video, I'm going to answer 8 essential Node.js interview questions. Let's get started. Let's look at our first question. Here is our first question. What is Node.js and how does it differ from other server-side technologies like Apache or PHP? Node.js is a JavaScript runtime that lets us run JavaScript on servers, unlike traditional systems like Apache or PHP that handle one request per thread. Node uses a single threaded event loop, making it incredibly efficient for handling thousands of simultaneous connections, perfect for real-time application like chat apps or live updates. Let's look at example. Here is our example. We first require Node's built-in HTTP module, which gives us web server capabilities. When we call create server, it sets up a server that runs our callback functions every time someone connects. Inside, we use respond.write head to send our response status and content type. The response.end sends our message. Finally, this line code start the server on port 3000. The key thing here is that this single server instance can handle thousands of connections simultaneously without creating new threads. Let's look at our second question. Here is our second question. What is callback function in Node.js and why are they commonly used in asynchronous programming? Callbacks functions are functions passed as arguments that execute after an operation completes. They are fundamental to Node's non-blocking nature, allowing the system to handle tasks while waiting for input-output operations like file reading or database queries. Let's look at the example. Here is our example. In this file reading example, fs.read file starts our reading file, but instead of waiting, Node immediately continues to other code. The function we provide as the last argument, that's our callback function, only runs after the file is completely read. It receives two parameters, error if something went wrong and data containing the file content. This pattern means our application stays responsive while the file is being read in the background. Let's look at our third question. What is the purpose of package.json file and node.js product? Can you explain the key properties found in this file? Let's look at the answer. The package.json file is our project's manifest. It stores metadata, dependencies, and scripts. It automatically created when you run npm init and updated whenever you install packages. Let's look at our example. Here is the example. We see several important sections. The name and version identify our project. Scripts let you define shortcuts like npm start to run our app. Dependencies list all packages our app needs to run, while dev dependencies contains tools only needed during development. The main property specifies your app's entry point file. This file is crucial because npm uses it to manage your project's ecosystem. Let's look at fourth question. Here is a fourth question. Explain the difference between require and import statements in Node.js. When and why would you use one over the other? Required is Node's traditional module system, while import is the newer ES6 standard. While required can be used anywhere in our code, import statement must be at the top level of your file. Let's look at the example. Here is the example. Here we see both syntaxes. With require, we can load modules anywhere in our code. Notice we are requiring fs inside a function here. The import syntax is more rigid. It must be at the file top level. Also, import allows us to selectively import only what we need using destructing, while require is asynchronous. Import enables better static analysis and tree shaking in modern JavaScript bundles. Let's look at our fifth question. What is middleware in the context of Express.js? Can you give an example of how you would use middleware in an Express application? Middleware are functions that process requests before they reach out of the root handlers. They can modify request responses, end the request cycle, or call the next middleware inline. Let's look at our example. Here is the example. In this express example, we are using two middleware functions. The first one logs every request method and URL. Notice how we call next to pass control to the next middle. This one. And the second one, and the second root specific, it it only runs for slash admin routes and checks for authentication middleware execute in order, making them perfect for tasks like login authentication or data paging before your routes handle the request. Let's look at our sixth question. What is RESTful API and how can you create one using Node.js and Express.js? Explain the main HTTP method used in RESTful APIs. RESTful APIs follow HTTP methods to perform CURD operations. Express makes it easy to create these endpoints that can communicate with frontends or mobile apps. Let's look at the example. Here is the example. This code shows a simple REST API for your to-dos resource. We are using all major HTTP methods: get to retrieve to-dos, post to create new ones, put to update, and delete to remove. Notice how we use ID in the root to handle specific to-dos. The express.json middleware traces incoming JSON data. Each root handler receives the request and response objects, letting us send appropriate status ports and data. Let's look at our seventh question. What is the purpose of Node Package Manager NPM and how do you use it to manage dependencies in Node.js project? NPM is a Nodes package manager, the world's largest software registry. It lets you install, share, and manage dependencies in your projects. Let's look at the example. Here is the example. After initializing a project with npm init, we can install packages like Express using npm install Express. This automatically adds Express to our dependencies in package.json. The save dev flag is used for development tools like Nodemon that aren't needed in production. npm handles versioning and and dependency resolution, ensuring all team members use the same package version specified in package log.json. Let's look at our eighth question. Why is it important to hash passwords in web application? Hashing passwords is crucial for security. It converts passwords into irreversible strings. So even if your database compromised, attackers can't see actual passwords. Let's look at the example. Here is the example. Here we are using bytecrypt to hash passwords. The hash function takes the plain text, adds all random data for extra security, and produces a hash we store in our database. When logging in, we use compare to check if the provided password matches the hash without ever storing or comparing plain passwords. Notice the salt counts parameter which determines how computationally insensitive the hashing is. Higher number means better security but slower operations. That's it. We have answered all the questions. Thank you.